Hello, and welcome to fan commentary on the Return of Thunder Part 2. For me, this is the best part out of this four-parter. It's the best episode for Blake, it's the best episode for Hunter, it's the best episode for the Thunder Rangers in general. The one thing I say that it's most disappointing from Ninja Storm is Blake and Hunter as being brothers. It was cool concept that made them adopted. It's different for what they did in Hurricane because they are genuine brothers in them. But the whole brother aspect really didn't focus on anything at all, while in Hurricane they used it to their advantage in many different ways. It just felt like, it was a waste, and they could have just not been brothers. I always wondered who did the narrator for that little bit. Now, for the most part, this story is adapted from the original Hurricane episode, right down to the freezing of the planet. Why I like this episode the most out of the parts, it's because it has like the best fight sequence between the Wind Rangers and Thunder Rangers. The very first time the Wind and Thunder Rangers fought, they were outmatched. The Thunder Rangers were, way stronger than them because they didn't know their fighting style, they didn't know their abilities or what they can do. And over time, the Rangers kept getting better and better and better till this point today where the Rangers can fight them on equal footing. Tori, no matter what, she will defend Blake. While Shane stuck to his position, he has to say it. It's like, I only know them for a month. I don't know who they are. And every single time that we fought, they beat us up. They fought us. They tricked us. So I just like how Shane stuck to his position and Tori defended Blake even through all this nonsense because it had to be, something. We've seen it many times before where monsters have taken advantage of Rangers. So she always keeps that open mind. Well, Dustin kept his opinion to himself because he's the kind of guy who's like, well, no, whatever's true is true, and then that's the one I'm going to focus on, help them, defeat them. So it's like they use their characters in really good ways. The Shane, Tori, Dustin dynamic is very similar to Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. And that's what I did like about Ninja Storm and them taking advantage of the whole trio and sub Ranger teams that Super Sentai was doing in this era. This part also, I think, works better than the portion of the story in the Hurricangers episode. Well, like I said in part one, that Hurricaneger was more emotional, more dramatic. Eco was trying to kill his brother, so they were mainly focusing on him and that, while the other Rangers really got sidelined and they were not really important until after Eco had made his decision to turn evil on his brother. So with this, it kept the original Rangers at the forefront while everyone is trying to figure out what is going on. This is the best scene for Hunter, honestly, because, like I said, Hunter is a good character, but with the lack of not using him and him just basically playing second fiddle, he's supposed to be the leader of his team, and Blake ends up being the leader of his team because he's just used way more, and he's more of an interesting character. But at least here, Hunter got to lead and actually, defend what he was believing in. The fight scene is done really well, even though it's a good mixture of stunt performers and the actors, and it pays off here, and it shows how well the Ninja Storm Rangers have come. It's like, remember when we first saw the Rangers in the pilot episode? They're complete fools. They couldn't use their abilities. Dustin got stuck on the floor. Shane just fell off from the air. Tori could not even use her water correctly. And it was their mistake to go inside the forest because the Rangers, their best place is in the forest because they've always trained in the forest. They used all the trees and stuff to their advantage. While the Thunder Rangers, they focus more on their skill and their thunder powers, which again is really not useful in this regard. It also works really well in how they adapted the footage because, like I said, in the original episode, Iko is fighting the whole, I have to kill my brother in order to release what they needed to get in the series. And it was ingenious of how they used, various parts of it to work into this story. Although with this though, it makes Ninja Storm kind of like how in MMPR season 2 it was the park season. Ninja Storm was the beach season because they're always near beach edges, which is mainly because of Hurricane. They loved shooting on the beach for whatever reason. Maybe it was because they were elements. They wanted to be near water and all this other stuff, which unfortunately causes some issues because again they have to re-record sound. So a lot of times if you listen to the dialogue, it kind of sounds like they're in a studio. Also, the editing for this episode is it's technically using like a 1.5 episodes from Hurricaneger, but also the scenes are actually reorganized. These scenes actually happened in the middle of the episode, and then there's some footage at the end that's really used in the following episode that has to be moved forward. And then it's a very complicated way they had to edit around all the stuff. Oh, speaking of the ninja beams, now some people may not know that the ninja beams in Hurricane were actually real shurikens, and they actually shot out, and you could see them hit the Rangers. It's very odd why they had to censor that because it's a melee weapon. We've seen melee weapons that's been around before and hit Rangers before, but they had to, for whatever reason, censor them in this. I've always said, Power Rangers has weird sense of humor, corny humor, and I like it to a degree, but certain things just I don't like. And like for example, when Alpha sweats, it makes no sense. It's just there for the gag. Now the whole freezing and the freezing the planet, it makes sense. The mountain's magical. It's doing something. But why would the spaceship be affected? And that would not do anything. It doesn't make any sense. And it's just really here to give the villains something to do, which fine. But honestly, most of this could have been cut out and it wouldn't have been a problem because you only need key bits. They have to trim certain things out of the Super Sentai footage that they cut around it by going to the villain side or go to the cam side. It's a lame joke. It's one of those misfires. And it makes Zergain look bad. That's another problem that Ninja Storm suffered from. Just like how Ripcon, when he was established as being an idiot, so no one ever believed him, Zergain fell into the same trap as well. Well, Zergain is actually fine. In the very beginning, he was cool. He was like Goldar. Over time, he kept getting showed up by various other generals, Vexicus, Chubo here, and it just kept making him look worse and worse, and I really didn't like him after a while either, because he just fell into the same problem as Goldar did in Zeo. Now, if you picture in the original episode, it's basically he's trying to contemplate that, should I need to kill my brother? What should I do? Should I not do this? Should I do this? My goal is to get, this special power unlocked, and I have to kill my brother. So that's what he's thinking of in the original footage. This is probably the best moment, that the Rangers finally beat the Thunder Rangers fair and square. And after all that, crazy nonsense they have gone through for 6 episodes. And it's really good character growth that, some people tend to overlook because, yeah, you see Ninja Storm as a really goofy season and it's a little bit over the top, I agree. But those are the moments that I do enjoy from it. This is another example of making the characters overly stupid, especially later on, because all they do is just push a button that Lothar can do really quick. It just makes everyone look pointless. Lothar looks like, I'm just using her to push a button. I'm really lazy. It's just like, it just makes all the villains look bad. I really wish other seasons of PR slash Super Sentai would do this with their helmets, but it is better when you see them in their costume because you do need that connection. Because a lot of seasons, Jew Ranger, for example, I don't even think we ever saw Geki, without the helmet even once. It's just things that you lose that connection if you don't see them every now and again. And Ninja Storm slash Hurricaneer took it further, and I wish all seasons had retractable helmets. Now this monster is almost the same from Hurricaneer. The only difference they did was they decided to change it so that instead of, he used to be his brother and he was taking revenge on them killing him. Well, in here they made him that he's a power up, which doesn't make any sense. So Chubo was able to make him a bomb, blow him up and kill him, then revive him and then make him a superpower. It kind of makes you think, why did they get rid of Chubo if he can do that with monsters? So that's why I wish they hadn't changed it to, another monster itself, because it just shows Chubo has a really special ability that just gets ignored. Although I will nitpick here, when the energy effect on his face comes on, there's a bluish white light, but the effect is a crimson purple color. Doesn't really work. Now, again, in the Hurricane footage, Chubo is basically telling him what in order to release that special power is, and he's like, Iko knows that he has to kill you, and he's like, no, that can't be true, and then that's the reason why he attacks him. I always found it odd though. Here they changed when he got the impact on Blake. It was very odd how PR does that. I don't think it was a censor issue. I think it was more of a, oh, we're going to go to a commercial, so I have to shorten it, because when Iko actually strikes Ishu in the original episode, it was more like more sparks, more explosions, more hits. And I think it was just for time, but that could easily look like it was just for censure, but they really do the same thing. So it's just always very odd when things like that happen. That's what I always hate about the whole plan in general, because Lothar is always complaining, like, why is it getting cold and all this, and it's just like, well, if Chuba can control these monsters, why doesn't he just cancel out that effect? It just, again, certain things just don't make any sense. It's arbitrary. It's just the way they're working with the Super Sentai footage. But again, they could have just made it a little bit more logical. Now, if you pay attention, Chubo keeps bouncing around in certain areas. First he's on the ground, then he's on the mountain head, because they're using, actually, that's where it shows you where the two different points of footage they're using it from. Now, this is actually from a later episode where Ishu is trying to convince him that, you shouldn't follow this is wrong. Here's another bit of footage that was from another episode where Iko actually pushed Blue out of the way. But Iko really didn't care, because in the original episode he had a problem fighting his brother, so he used this gas to basically take control of his body so that he doesn't feel. This is why I wish they had done more brother stuff in the episodes, because we don't really get that feeling of Blake and Hunter are relatives, because there's really no other point except here where they show they care about each other. They're just basically like colleagues slash just regular rangers. There's just that connection is lost, and they never explored, like, how were they adopted? Who were they adopted from? What was their family? They don't go into those details, which sucks, and is one of the main things that's wrong with Blake and Hunter too. It's just they don't get a lot of backstory, and they're pretty much ignored. Well, yeah, granted, Shane, Tori, and Dustin also don't get anything with their families, bar Porter for Shane, but they're more fleshed out characters, and they're more believable in the sense because they're on their own. Dustin, Tori, and Shane are, they're adults. They're not in high school anymore. They chose to be at the Ninja Academy. So we have to assume they simply parted ways with their families and they moved on to doing that. So it's not really a problem. The problem is with the lack of Blake and Hunter's background, and we didn't get anything with their characters. You would like to know either something about them or their past, or at least a way to set up, like, why did they go evil? What happened to the Thunder Rangers team? There's only that loose information we get. It's just a missed opportunity that I wish they had taken advantage of. And I don't believe it's the shorter episode count, because yes, Super Sentai does have an advantage of getting 48 to 50 episode seasons, so they can do a lot more. But they also do a lot of filler episodes. So they don't, they're not superior in having episode count, because a lot of times they do have some weird episodes that are unimportant or completely stupid, that are not like, oh wow. So the Rangers Ninja Storm having like 38 episodes, that still works perfectly fine. It's just, I wish they would focus on the characters rather than trying to adapt certain episodes from Hurricaneger that they couldn't do, and they were like, well, we should do something else with these characters if we can't use this footage. But in Ninja Storm's case, what they usually did is the easier way out, is they'll pick episodes they can adapt, skip 10 or 15 episodes, and or use the monsters in the future somehow, and that's it. They really won't look at it through a story perspective, like, well, where should we have this character go? Dropping episodes just makes the characters get forgotten about. It's easier on the writers, but it's unfortunate to the viewer because we just don't really get anything with the characters. I think this is Blake's best moment in the entire series because it's just like he has to make a decision. You know, I was conned. Chubo tricked us multiple times. He hates Lothar. And, you know, basically the little brother's trying to help the big brother. It just sucks. Whenever we get those cool moments, Hunter's not there. It's just like, it's like he's cursed in Ninja Storm. Hunter can never catch a break, and he's always getting, like, left over, forgotten about. If you like my content, consider leaving a like and subscribing.